You know, the past 2 years have been the most difficult years for me and the most grooming years, I must say, because these are the 2 years that I've literally spent almost all my time trying to study the person that I am, trying to develop the person that I am and trying to really create the best version of who I am. But before I could start creating anything, I needed to understand the person that I am, and I needed also to understand why I like certain things and why I don't like certain things, and what my weaknesses were and what my strengths are, right? So the more I've learned, I realized that the one thing that I had to admit was the fact that I was a judgmental person. I never thought of myself as a judgmental person, but what I believed was right was actually the gospel truth. And what I believed was wrong was definitely wrong, and you couldn't tell me anything. And I would force my beliefs on other people. I would judge other people based on what I would believe was right or wrong. But the more I've studied myself, the more I've realized that actually there's a lot that I need to learn about myself, and there's a lot that I need to appreciate about other people. And the fact that I appreciate some things doesn't make those things, the most moral things that can be done on earth. I myself have my weaknesses, and those are the difficult conversations that I had to have with myself in order to really experience what true inner peace means. So today I want to talk to you about living a life that is free from judgment so that you're able to enjoy peace. I am Pulaa Montz, your inner voice magnified. I know most of us don't believe we are judgmental. We believe that we are the most loving people. Everybody believes the best of themselves. I doubt there's somebody who believes they are wicked, they are worthless. We all believe the best of ourselves. If I didn't achieve anything, I know there's somebody who is to blame for me not achieving the life that I wanted to achieve. We always, protect ourselves. We always speak for ourselves in order to cover who we really are, right? So all of us believe the best of ourselves. At least that's what I believe. And the one thing that I always thought about myself was that I was a loving person, and I believe that I love people for who they are. I never wanted in my mind to change anybody. I just wanted to accept people for who they were. But the first thing, when somebody does something that is different from the way I would do things, I would complain. For instance, with my husband at home, I would expect him to put away his clothes, fold them and put them in the wardrobe. I would expect him to press the toothpaste from the bottom, not anywhere, just in the middle, right? Silly things like that. I would expect him to close the toilet seat, for example, because I felt comfortable with all of those. But the day I realized that I'm actually not the standard of the world, it was the day I realized that I have been so judgmental, not taking other people into consideration. And I started asking myself how I was with my friends, how I was with my colleagues. I've always had this my beliefs, and I've always believed that whatever I believe is the right thing. And I would stress so much about so many people who were not doing the things that I thought were right, the things that everybody should be doing according to me, because of course I was the standard of the world. People needed to just look at me and realize what they needed to do and not to do, right? I wonder how many of you are still like I was. You are in your own bubble thinking what you believe is the right thing that needs to be done. But then yet you don't see yourself as a judgmental person. For instance, have you ever worried about how people dress at the office? I remember we were having a conversation with one of my sisters over the weekend, right? And we were talking about the corporate dress code. And as we were talking, eventually we got to the decision that, oh my gosh, we didn't realize that we have been so judgmental after debating the issue for so long. Where at first, when you started the conversation, we believed that, there's a certain way that people in the corporate space must dress. But when we dissected it, we found that actually we were trying to make everybody look the same, and people are different. People have different personalities. These days, the millennials are making waves in the corporate space. How many of you, right, the Y generation, the Z generation, right, have experienced these millennials who come to work with colorful hair? Corporate South Africa with colorful hair, torn jeans, right? It used to freak me out. I couldn't believe that anybody would walk out of their own home to come to work looking like that. But you know what? We had that kind of a conversation, and ultimately we realized that actually, we wanted everybody to look the same. And that means we are all so judgmental. We want people to look the way we feel comfortable, right? Because ultimately we got to a point where we are saying it doesn't matter how these young people are dressing up at work. What matters is that, do they know their work? That should be the first thing that we worry about in the corporate space. Does this person know their work? You might be worried thinking, no, nobody's going to take them seriously. But that's the risk that an individual is allowed to take. So please tell me, do you still believe that you're not judgmental? Or are you like me, where you were in denial, but now you're starting to realize how judgmental we can be, right? Have you ever had a situation where you're talking about a girl next door who has 3 kids still at home? Oh, sorry guys, I just noticed lipstick on my teeth. Have you ever had conversations around your dinner table talking about the girl next door who has 3 kids still staying at home and how disgusting that is? And you still call yourself an accepting person. You let people be who they are. No, you are judgmental. I hope you're starting to see the trend. When we do these things, we don't realize that we are being judgmental. We don't realize that we worry too much about what other people are doing, and at the expense of our own peace. Because when you keep worrying about somebody, when you keep having conversations around your dinner table where as a family you're supposed to be talking about how our day was, kids sharing with their parents how they were at school, how was life at work, for example, parents sharing with the kids. We are there around the table discussing the girl next door who has 3 kids still at home, right? For us it's disgusting. But she becomes the main conversation at the table at the expense of our family time, at the expense of knowing each other as a family. The next thing you know, your own child is failing at school and you don't understand why, because you're always around the table talking, but then you fail to see that actually you are busy talking about other people. You are not looking your child in the eye and trying to hear how life is from their perspective, right? So we are so judgmental and we don't even notice, because it's just the culture of talking about people. It's just the culture of worrying about other people. How many of you have had a conversation about somebody, or have said to someone, stop eating Nando's. I mean, it's month end, you're rushing to buy Nando's and KFC, right? You forget that you've got debit orders. When you get your debit orders, you'll be screaming as if you didn't have money. Every month end, this person forgets that they've got debt, right? They only remember their debt when it's the 15th of the month, or when it's the 12th, when it's the 17th or the 21st. That's when people start remembering that they've got debt. I mean, I've had so many conversations like that. Like, when are people going to be used to the fact that there is month end, but at month end, that's a time when you need, firstly, to pay your debt before you start spending your money. I mean, who cares? It's their money. They know how they'll handle their debts. They know how they will handle their creditors. Why worry about somebody who's not worried about themselves? You know? So I tell you, the less judgmental you are, the more peace you'll have. I mean, take it from me. I mean, I realized that I was the queen of the judgmental world, right? And I didn't even notice. I mean, these are the serious, real conversations that I had to have with myself, that I needed to work through and to get to a stage where I would really admit that I am judgmental. Took a long time because I just didn't believe I was that person. But when I started dissecting the things that I say, the things that I do, then I started realizing that indeed, if I'm to change, if I'm to become the best version of myself, the first step is to admit that I am indeed judgmental. And when I moved away from talking about people, when I moved away from trying to impose my own values on other people, I realized that I stopped worrying a lot about what people are doing. I accept people for who they are and what they want to do with their lives, because I realized that the same respect I would also want to be offered by others, right? So the same courtesy that you want to receive from others, when you want people to let you be who you are, to let you decide what you do with your money, to let you decide what you do with your hair, to let you decide whether you put on makeup or not, to let you decide how short you want your pants to be, or how short you want your skirt to be. You want people to allow you that courtesy to be yourself. So it is important that I also allow other people that same courtesy. The minute I realized that, the minute I stopped worrying about other people, and I realized that, these days I've got so much peace. And when somebody comes to me and complain about somebody doing something else, I don't take things so seriously anymore. I'm so light-hearted. I'll just ask you, but why does it bother you? Let this person be, because really, I don't think there's anybody who wants to be told how to live their lives. And as much as I don't want to be told, I've learned not to judge other people based on my own morals, based on my own values, or based on my perspective about a life in general, right? So I just wanted to say to you, the less judgmental you are, the more peace you start enjoying. Whether it's your siblings, whether it's your friends, your colleagues, if you start accepting people for who they are, then you'll realize that, you will have less stress, you will have less issues with chronic diseases, because most of us are sick because we are worried about other people, right? But you are worried about somebody who's actually having a ball of a time, I tell you. So the more you start working on yourself, I believe that you will stop worrying about other people and you'll start enjoying inner peace. I am Pulaa Montz, your inner peace and purpose coach.